Enoch saw these days. He wrote down what he saw. He saw the world we live in today. Enoch 63, verses 3 through 13. And there shall stand up in that day all the kings and the mighty and the exalted and those who hold the earth. And they shall see and recognize how he sits on the throne of his glory, and righteousness is judged before him, and no lying word is spoken before him. Then pain shall come upon them as on a woman in travail, and she has pain in bringing forth, when her child enters the mouth of the womb, and she has pain in bringing forth. And one portion of them shall look on the other, and they shall be terrified, and they shall be downcast of countenance, and pain shall seize them when they see that Son of Man sitting on the throne of his glory. And the kings and the mighty and all who possess the earth shall bless and glorify and extol him who rules over all, who was hidden. For from the beginning the Son of Man was hidden, and the Most High preserved him in the presence of his might, and revealed him to the elect. And the congregation of the elect and holy shall be sown, and all the elect shall stand before him on that day. And all the kings and the mighty and the exalted, and those who rule the earth, shall fall down before him on their faces, and worship and set their hope upon that Son of Man, and petition him, and supplicate for mercy at his hands. Nevertheless, that Lord of spirits will so press them, that they shall hastily go forth from his presence, and their faces shall be filled with shame, and the darkness grow deeper on their faces. And he will deliver them to the angels for punishment, to execute vengeance on them, because they have oppressed his children and his elect. And they shall be a spectacle for the righteous and for his elect. They shall rejoice over them, because the wrath of the Lord of spirits resteth upon them, and his sword is drunk with their blood. And the righteous and elect shall be saved on that day, and they shall never thenceforward see the face of the sinners and the unrighteous. Enoch 80, verses 6 through 8. And many chiefs of the stars shall transgress the order prescribed, and these shall alter their orbits and tasks, and not appear at the seasons prescribed to them. And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners, and the thoughts of those on the earth shall err concerning them, and they shall be altered from all their ways. Yea, they shall err and take them to be gods, and evil shall be multiplied upon them, and punishment shall come upon them, so as to destroy all. We are taught in school, and it is a belief, and I stress the word belief, that is held by almost the whole world, that the stars are basically the same as the sun, but are at great distances from the earth. We are taught that we are in a solar system in which the sun is attracting other planets by gravity, and therefore they orbit the sun. They circle around the sun. We are taught that the distances of these stars or suns is so great that it needs to be measured in light years, the distance to them, or the speed of light, which is basically, this is the speed that something would travel in a year if it was traveling at the speed of light. So we are taught that the nearest star system closest to our sun is about 4.22 light years from the Earth and is the closest star other than the Sun, and it's Alpha Centauri A and B. The average distance between them is about 23 astronomical units, a little more than the distance between the Sun and Uranus. This is the point of view and teachings of most universities, and it is taught worldwide. And actually, everyone that is alive today was taught this cosmology. Now, I have learned in the last few years that there is a completely different understanding, and again, I'll stress the word belief, a different understanding and belief about what the stars are and what they are doing in the night sky. And this new way of understanding is new to me and is new to most people that are in the world, but it is an understanding that to me makes much more sense, and I actually believe something other than what the universities teach. This idea that I have, this understanding, comes from ancient scriptures, such as the Bible, the Book of Enoch, and many other ancient writings. So one of the clearest chapters and writings about the makeup of the sky concerning the stars is found in Enoch, in the Book of Enoch, chapter 71. So I'm going to read that to you, and then we will discuss this different understanding of cosmology. And I'm going to call it a new understanding because to me it's new. And I believe that to you it is probably new too. I don't think anybody had this understanding 5 years ago that was alive in the world. And now it's been revealed through these scriptures that there is another understanding, another way to look at this creation and the sky and everything and understand it in an entirely different way than them being suns that are at a great distance. Okay, that's a theory, and I have to stress that. That is a theory that the universities are teaching about the stars. Okay. Here's Enoch chapter 71. And it came to pass after this that my spirit was translated, and it ascended into the heavens, and I saw the holy sons of God. They were stepping on flames of fire. Their garments were white, and their raiment, and their faces shone like snow. And I saw two streams of fire, and the light of that fire shone like hyacinth. And I fell on my face before the Lord of spirits. And the angel Michael, one of the archangels, seized me by my right hand and lifted me up and led me forth into all the secrets. And he showed me all the secrets of righteousness. And he showed me all the secrets of the ends of the heaven, and all the chambers of all the stars, and all the luminaries, whence they proceed before the face of the holy ones. And he translated my spirit into the heaven of heavens. And I saw there, as it were, a structure built of crystals. And between those crystals, tongues of living fire. And my spirit saw the girdle which girt that house of fire, and on its four sides were streams full of living fire, and they girt that house. And round about were seraphim, cherubim, and ophanim. And these are they who sleep not, and guard the throne of his glory. And I saw angels who could not be counted, 1,000 thousands, and 10,000 times 10,000, encircling that house. And Michael and Raphael and Gabriel and Phanuel and the holy angels who were above the heavens go in and out of that house. And they came forth from that house, and Michael and Gabriel and Raphael and Phanuel and many holy angels without number. And with them the head of days, his head white and pure as wool, and his raiment indescribable. So that's Enoch 71. And as you can tell in those writings, what was being revealed to Enoch, or at least what Enoch wrote that was being revealed to him, was the secrets of righteousness. And one of the first things he saw was 1,000 thousands of angels that could not be counted, 1,000 thousands and 10,000 times 10,000 encircling that house. Now I want to show you star trails, and I don't think I really have to explain to you what I'm believing, and I stress the word belief. I'm believing that these stars are, I believe they are angels, and that they are encircling that house that's on the screen right now in the center, which would be the North Star. This is a different way of understanding. So if we actually look up at the heavens and we do this type of star trail photography, which, again, this is new. No human eyes ever saw this depiction of the stars in this way until about 1930. It was the first time this was ever photographed like this. So this is a new, somewhat new understanding of what the sky is doing. Nobody ever saw this until about 1930. It's a new type of photography that shows us, it visualizes us, for us, a different thing happening in the sky. So there's another way to understand the stars, and it comes from the ancient prophets of God. Now that was just the book of Enoch, chapter 71 that we read, but there's many prophecies concerning the knowledge about the stars. And it's foretold in the Bible. In Isaiah 43 verse 9, it says, "Let all the nations be gathered together, and let the people be assembled. Who among them can declare this, and show us former things? Let them bring forth their witnesses, that they may be justified, or let them hear and say, it is truth." Let's go over that again really quick. He asked a question. He said, who among them can declare and show us former things? What's that talking about? Isaiah 48 verse 3, "I have declared the former things from the beginning, and they went forth out of my mouth. And I showed them, I did them suddenly, and they came to pass." I'm going to give you an example of my understanding of what that verse is saying. He declared the former things from the beginning, and they went forth out of his mouth. He did them suddenly and showed them, and they came to pass. I'm just picturing when Jesus said, "Let there be light," and there was light. It came out of his mouth, and then it was. It came to pass out of his mouth. So what would the former things be? That would be everything that Jesus said in the first 6 days of this creation. All the words he spoke and declared, and then they came to pass, and suddenly, and he showed them. 6 days. So this is saying, this is asking, who among them can declare this? And declare this 6 days of creation. That's really what this is saying. And if you look at the world today, if you look at my channel, and there's several other channels, there is a topic of discussion that is a worldwide debate. Everybody almost has heard about it. And it is whether the earth is a spinning ball or whether it is not, and it's a plane of existence that's stationary and not moving. These are completely opposite understandings, and yet I believe one, and people I know believe the other. Okay? So it is a belief. I don't believe for 1 second that I'm living on a spinning, orbiting sphere that's going through a vacuum of space, yet there's air and there's no barrier, right? These kinds of things don't make any sense to me. I think it's much more logical that the night sky, the stars, and all the things up in the sky are actually celestial. They're of a different nature than we are experiencing on the earth. I don't know the exact details of that nature. I'm just saying that it's not the same physical, material reality that we are all experiencing and used to. So in Enoch chapter 80, in verse 7, it says, "And the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners." And the thoughts of those on the earth shall err concerning them, and they shall be altered from all their ways. Yea, they shall err and take them to be gods. And evils shall be multiplied upon them, and punishment shall come upon them so as to destroy all. So this prophecy here is a really serious one. It's saying that the people who are sinning in the end, that they wouldn't understand what the order of the stars was. Now, the last 5 years is when I've changed my understanding and belief about what the stars are. In the last 5 years, I've changed from believing what the world teaches and what the universities teach to believing in what the scriptures teach, and it's two completely different things. So in Enoch chapter 93 verse 10, there's a prophecy of this happening, and what I mean this happening is people having it revealed to them what the truth was, and it wouldn't be concealed from them. So the whole order of the stars shall be concealed from the sinners. But in Enoch 93 verse 10 it says, and at its close shall be elected the elect righteous of the eternal plant of righteousness, to receive sevenfold instruction concerning all his creation. I think that's what's happening in the last 5 years. And actually it's even much more of a topic than just cosmology. It's actually has to do with eternal life. And now a lot of people don't like when I say that, but I'm going to quote Jesus here. When his disciples asked him what would be the signs of his return, one of the things he said was in Matthew 24 verse 14. He said, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. So Jesus is saying that before the end comes, a gospel of the kingdom would be preached in all nations as a witness. It reminds me of Isaiah 43 when it says, let them bring forth their witnesses, that they may be justified, or let them hear and say it is truth. Or in John 15 verse 27 it says, and ye also shall bear witness, because ye have been with me from the beginning. So I don't know what all these things mean, but I know that Jesus said that we would bear witness to the truth. And in Isaiah 43 verse 9 it says that they may be justified, or let them hear and say it is truth. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm here saying today, is that there's a lie, and it comes from universities, and it comes from having the truth about the stars concealed from these universities. They don't know the truth. They're teaching lies, and they believe the lies. So in Psalm 147 verse 4 it says, he telleth the number of the stars, he calleth them all by their names. Psalm 148 verse 3 says, praise ye him, sun and moon, praise him, all ye stars of light. Isaiah 14 verse 13, this is what Lucifer says in his heart. For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. Daniel 8 verse 10, he's seeing a vision, and he sees something going all the way up to the stars. Daniel 8 verse 10, and it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host and of the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. And it also says this in Daniel 12 verse 3, it says, and they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever. And then we find out about the planets here in Jude 1 verse 13, when it says, raging waves of the sea, foaming out their own shame, wandering stars, to whom is reserved the blackness of darkness forever. So the wandering stars are imprisoned in darkness. Okay, Genesis 1 verse 16 says, and God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. And it also says that he put them in the firmament to be for signs, seasons, days, and years. So the stars in the firmament are actually a calendar or a clock or a schedule, whatever you want to call it. It's a clock in the sky. So then in Enoch chapter 18, verse 4, it says, I saw the winds of heaven which turn and bring the circumference of the sun and all the stars to their setting. I saw the winds on the earth carrying the clouds. I saw the path of the angels. I saw at the end of the earth the firmament of heaven above. This is sounding to me like these stars are clearly commanded to go on the courses that they go. They're ordained by God to do what they do. And they ride on the path of angels. They are the path of the angels. These are angels. This is what I believe. So the sky at night, if you pay attention to it, it's changing. So I would put a warning out for those who are not looking up at this clock, this schedule, this calendar up in the sky, to check it out. There are things changing up there, and it's men who are changing things. And I think that this is a scary thing for the time we live in because of what the prophets wrote. Destruction cometh. So that is what I believe the stars are, is angels. And they are circling in the firmament, which turns along with the sun and moon, circling over the earth. They're doing a circle above the flat earth. That's what I believe.
In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth.
The moon has 4 names: Asanja, Ebla, Benes, Ere. The sun has 2 names: Orgerez, Tomez. Enoch 78. The question I'm going to ask here is, what are the planets? 7 of them: Mars, Venus, Mercury, Uranus, Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune. These are evil planeo, seducers. They lead astray. They cause to wander. They deceive. These 7, at the beginning of their rising, they didn't come out at their appointed time that God ordained and commanded them. And so he was angry with them, and he bound them in the blackness of darkness until judgment. He imprisoned them. Then, in Genesis 6, there were angels that came down to the earth and lusted after the daughters of men. And they created offspring with these daughters of men. And the offspring were mighty giants and very evil. And when these giants died, their spirits would stay on the earth and become evil spirits. And the angels that came down would be buried in the earth for 70 generations. And then when that time came, they would be led off to the abyss of fire. And the abyss of fire is also known as outer darkness, the blackness of darkness, Sheol, many different names and descriptions, the wilderness. It's a spiritual place, and it's a prison. This is why so many people today are gathered against this organization, I should say these organizations, that call themselves space agencies. They are not going to a place that is a solar system. They're being lured into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Nobody realized this. And so Apollo came and went with the moon missions. And they landed on the moon, they say. But the moon is a light. And as I said a few minutes ago, it has 4 names: Asanja, Ebla, Benese, and Ere. So, as children, everyone alive today was taught that these 7 evil, transgressing, bound up, imprisoned luminaries were places to go. And now we have Elon Musk trying to go to Mars to create a world for humanity, just in case this world goes bad. This is a mistake to take part in any of this. It's a mistake to believe in any of this. It's a mistake to believe that this is for humanity. It's not. It's the devil and the demons. The fallen angels have now invited men by their inspiration. They've invited men to create technology, and they've taught men, especially Elon Musk, they've taught him how to go into that darkness, and they're coming back through into the earth because men are basically opening the jail cell. So although we were taught these planets were places in a solar system, they're not. The stars in the sky, besides these 7, all circle the North Star. These 7 are the only ones that don't. And actually, there's an 8th one now, because there's the space station. 8 wandering stars. John, in Revelation 17, went to a place where there was 7 mountains, and the 8th was the beast. And the reason why that interests me is because Enoch also went to a place that had 7 mountains. And guess what those mountains were? They were those 7 stars that didn't obey God. And it's even said in the book of Enoch that those fallen angels and those 7 transgressing stars would defile mankind and lead them astray into sacrificing to demons as gods. By assuming many different forms. We're in a spiritual battle today, and almost everybody's probably not aware of the things that I just explained. And that means you're losing the battle. Because we need to come out of this place. This place where there's planets, this solar system where there's a globe. Run away from it. It's nothing but wickedness. And it is a trick that the devil is still deceiving many of you with. And no, I don't know everything. But I do know this. And I didn't learn this from myself. I learned it from a higher power that's trying to get this information to people in this physical material world we live in, called the Earth. This information comes down from heaven by the old writings of the prophets. They wrote about these things long ago. And it was even written that it would be kept secret until the end. And then it would be revealed. The sevenfold doctrine of God's whole creation would be received in the world at the end. That's today. So what I'm saying is, jump off the ball. It's flat. It's stationary. You know it. I know it. The pride that makes you want to stay on that globe isn't worth it. Get rid of it. I did. It's the best thing I ever did. The earth is a plane. And live in the world that you experience. Don't live in the world that this world and science has tried to sell us all. Because it's false. And all their efforts in the sky will come to naught. And God won't have any pity. Come out of her, my people. Don't partake in her sins, because they're reaching up to heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him.
And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men.
Sitting on a dragon on top of the beast.
It's a bottomless pit.
In this abyss of darkness.
I really believe in the space frontier, the abyss, so to speak.
The good abyss. The good abyss.
a year is. Well, that's 365 days, right? Well, how do we know to count that many days? How do we know how a year is a year? We could maybe say, well, because we have all the seasons. Yeah, and why do we have all the seasons? What determines what amount of time goes by in a day? What determines what amount of time goes by in a year? Well, here's what I think. There's only one way that we can determine when a year goes by. Basically, one way. And that is by looking up at the sky clock that exists. Every year, the stars, like for instance today, if we took a still shot of the sky from my house, in 1 year's time, the stars would all be in the exact same position that they're in today. But every day in between, those stars would all be in different positions than they are specifically today, and a year from today, and a year from that day, and a year from that day. Because the stars have a cycle that they go through. They're turning, but at the same time that they're turning, they're changing their orientation slightly each day. We end up with the stars back in the same position again. This is one reason why the idea that the heliocentric model gives us of the North Star being previously a different star and not Polaris is a ridiculous falsehood, because that's not how the sky works. But just think about that. How do we determine a year? We do it with the stars in the sky. And that is actually stated in the creation story in Genesis. God said he created the sun, moon, and stars for signs, seasons, and days and years. And that's what we witness here on the earth. So that is the truth. So what we've been watching here on the screen is time-lapse photography of the stars. Now what happens when the star trails, or this time-lapse photography, what happens when it starts looking like this? And if that continues, how are we going to determine what a year is? I mean, I think we could still tell. But doesn't it seem like something's kind of getting in the way there? This started to happen to time-lapse photography in May of 2019. So just over a year ago, year and a half ago or so. And every month or so, they've been launching another 60 of these satellites. These are Starlink satellites that SpaceX is putting up in there, in that darkness. People call it space. But they're putting it up there, and I'm just making a clear note to everyone that God ordained laws for all the luminaries. Every star in the sky has an ordained course that God commanded them to go on. And we already know that 7 of those stars, which we call planets, disobeyed God's ordained courses for them. And so he bound them in darkness until judgment. But besides those 7, all the other stars circle Polaris every 24 hours. And that's just what the sky has always been. And so there's been a change made in the last year and a half. A big change. So this video is just a watchman's call out to those who are paying attention. Daniel 7 verse 25 says, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws." and they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time. I think we're there, guys. There is a man in the world today trying to change times and laws, because that is what the sun, moon, and stars are, is they are for signs, seasons, days, and years.
And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time.
And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years.
And think to change times and laws.
Life can become multiplanetary. This is the goal we should strive for. There need to be reasons to get up in the morning. Life can't just be about solving problems. Otherwise, what's the point? There's got to be things that people find inspiring and make life worth living. What are the important steps in the evolution of life? Obviously, there was the advent of single-celled life. There was differentiation to plants and animals. There was life going from the oceans to land. There was mammals, consciousness, and I would argue also on that scale should fit life becoming multiplanetary. I think if one could make a reasonable argument that something is important enough to fit on the scale of evolution, then it's important. And maybe worth a little bit of our resources.
And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, and his tabernacle, and them that dwell in heaven, tabernacle in heaven.
I believe that it's important for the future to be a spacefaring civilization, and out there, ultimately be out there among the stars,
Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, And though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord.
Be out there among the stars.
Among the stars.
Be out there among the stars.
And though thou set thy nest
among the stars. This is hopefully the first step on a journey towards a civilization on Mars, life becoming multiplanetary, based on the moon and expanding beyond Earth. And
among the stars.
Be out there among the stars. Life becoming multiplanetary.
And liftoff.
And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth.
Liftoff of the SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket.
And he had two horns like a lamb. And he spake as a dragon.
Launching Dragon.
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 The dragon.
Dragon.
The dragon.
Dragon.
The dragon.
To the International Space Station.
And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority.
Dragon blasted to space.
The dragon.
Dragon is expected to stay attached to the space station until October 28th.
And they worshipped the dragon which gave power unto the beast.
Dragon is currently the only craft capable of returning a significant amount of supplies from the station.
He was cast out into the earth.
Good morning, welcome aboard. Dragon, SpaceX, ComCheck, ground stations.
SpaceX Dragon, we're go for launch. Let's light this candle.
3, 2, 1. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Spot and Dog.
On behalf of the entire launch team, thanks for flying with Falcon 9 today. We hope you enjoyed the ride and wish you a great mission.
We would like to welcome you aboard Capsule Endeavour.
MD Houston flight. Houston is go for undocking and departure.
Dragon is committed to undock.
SpaceX Dragon on Dragon to ground. We are ready for the systems brief.
Copy. As stated, Dragon's in a healthy state. We are proceeding toward the primary landing site, and your timeline is current. Visual, 2 drogues out.
200 meters. We are braced for splashdown.
Copy, brace for splashdown. Endeavour, on behalf of the SpaceX and NASA teams, welcome back to planet Earth, and thanks for flying SpaceX.
It's a humbling experience to be a part of what was accomplished.
It's great to see how excited everybody was. We hope it brings a little bit of brightness to a pretty tough 2020.
Advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic.
And through his policy also, he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand.
Being able to fly, being able to see over long distances, being able to communicate, and having access to all the world's information instantly from almost anywhere on the earth. This is stuff that really would be magic, or would be considered magic in times past. Being a multi-planet species and being out there among the stars is important for the long-term survival of humanity. If you consider two futures, one where we are forever confined to Earth until eventually something terrible happens, or another future where we are out there on many planets, maybe even going beyond the solar system,
among the stars.
I think that second version is incredibly exciting and inspiring, and there need to be reasons to get up in the morning. Life can't just be about solving problems. Otherwise, what's the point? It's got to be things that people find inspiring. The future of humanity will fundamentally bifurcate along the lines of either single-planet species or multi-planet species. And a multi-planet version of humanity, of humanity's future, is going to last a lot longer. We will propagate civilization into the future far longer if we're a multi-planet species than if we're a single-planet species. And so it's like planetary redundancy, backing up the biosphere. We've got all of our eggs in one basket here. We should try to protect that basket and do everything we can, but there are some risks that are just extremely difficult to mitigate, and some which we will ultimately not be able to mitigate. So it just seems like the right thing to do. And then the next question is, well, should we do it now, or should we wait for some point in the future? And I think it's the wise move is to do it now, because the window of technology for this is open, and it's the first time that window has been open in the 4.5 billion year history of Earth. I think there are really two fundamental paths. History is going to bifurcate along two directions. One path is we stay on Earth forever, and then there will be some eventual extinction event. I don't have an immediate doomsday prophecy, but it's eventually, history suggests there will be some doomsday event. The alternative is to become a spacefaring civilization and a multi-planet species, which I hope you would agree that is the right way to go.
Because, why do we need to build a city on Mars with 1 million people on it in your lifetime?
Yeah, I think it's important to have a future that is inspiring and appealing. I mean, I just think that there have to be reasons that you get up in the morning and you want to live. Like, why do you want to live? What's the point? What inspires you? What do you love about the future? And if we're not out there, if the future does not include being out there among the stars and being a multi-planet species, I find that it's incredibly depressing if that's not the future that we're going to have.
You decided to build a space company. Why on earth would someone do that?
The goal of SpaceX is to try to advance rocket technology, and in particular to try to crack a problem that I think is vital for humanity to become a spacefaring civilization, which is to have a rapidly and fully reusable rocket. What are the things that need to happen in order for the future to be an exciting and inspiring one? And I really think there's a fundamental difference if you sort of look into the future between a humanity that is a spacefaring civilization that's out there exploring the stars on multiple planets. And I think that's really exciting, and compared with one where we are forever confined to Earth until at some eventual extinction event, when we could resume the dream of Apollo. The goal of SpaceX really was to make as much progress as possible to advance rocket technology to the point where hopefully we can establish a colony on Mars. Dream of Apollo.
And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath his name Apollyon.
Apollo.
Apollyon.
Apollo.
Apollyon.
And we could resume the dream of Apollo.
The angel of the bottomless pit.
Apollo.